Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our insightful webinar on diversity and inclusion managing the relationship. Join as we explore the dynamic interplay between diversity and inclusion and discover effective strategies for creating inclusive working environments. We all know that a lot has been said about this topic, but yet a lot needs to be done to bring about a cultural shift and create truly inclusive working environments that tap on the true potential of diverse working groups. Someone once said, people need to see leaders who look like themselves to understand that it's possible for them. So, to learn more, we have invited today a highly experienced HR professional who has exposure of implementing multiple diversity inclusion initiatives. So, today we have with us Arshia Ahmad Saqib, VP Talent and Culture Engro Corp. Arshia brings more than a decade of enriching work experience of leading local and multinational corporations, including Ufone, Coca-Cola, and Standard Chartered. So, welcome on aboard, Arshia. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I am really excited to be here today and all well, mashallah, so far.
So, Arshia, before I start with detailed, targeted questions, tell us a bit about your interest in the topic. And I know you speak and talk a lot about it. So, why do you think diversity and inclusion is very important in today's day and world?
All right. I've been into the profession now around 21, 22 years. And the time when I started back, I was the first one in my family to go out of the family setup and start work. And then I've been in this journey a lot of time. I was the first woman to be in that group or to be in that organization and to be in that role. So I have actually experienced it myself throughout this time and even now, where diversity, in my context, gender diversity, and then into generational diversity, and then geographical, and then disabilities, and then inclusion, and how much you can suffer if you do not include or you do not tap into the potential and talent of different and diversified backgrounds and genders and all of these things. Because and that has economic hit also. So I think in today's world, in today's time and age, you have to engage and tap at all levels, all backgrounds, so you can uh, remove that financial exclusion from our society, and then everybody can then grow together and everybody can work together. And what I see now, in local context especially, that coming, in coming some years or months, everybody has to work, and we have to start the inclusion right now, because you rightly said a lot has been done and said, but still the needle has to move significantly. The needle has not much moved.
Makes sense. So, diversity and inclusion, both of these terminologies are often used together, yet they mean different things. And somehow, for some reason, we end up focusing on diversity and just sort of, forget about inclusion, or inclusion gets
Exactly.
pushed in the background.
Hmm.
So, in the local context, what does inclusion at workplace mean, and what are the different ways that people can or cannot feel included? And can you share some examples that you have experienced during your working journey?
Sure, I will. There's a very famous quote, and I mean, it's very one of my favorites, where uh, it is said that diversity is like invited to party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. So we do invite diversity to the party, but we don't ask to dance, and that is where the exclusion comes in. And even if you start asking for the dance, the systemic biases and the systemic exclusion, you still have to fight for that. So in my experience, so from last at least 10 years, I'm very, very involved in diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I've been working in and out in this field because that is personally connects with me. Even if I don't have that role, I've been still doing it in my personal life and in my professional life. Yes, a lot has been done for the diversity and particularly gender diversity. We see organizations having quotas and numbers to hire women, and then you do a lot of sensitization programs, but then it just stops there.
Hmm.
So generational diversity, geographical diversity, and disabilities, these are the area which are still need a lot of work. And organizations who are now mindful and inclusive of all of this, only they will progress, because diversity brings in profitability, creativity, and creativity as well. It's not like you're doing it because it's an in thing to do, you're doing it because it is a smart thing to do right
Hmm.
now. And so in a local context and in my current organization context, I'll give you some examples which are recent. So I can give you a lot, but they are a bit old, so it will be, I think, more appropriate if I just give you recent examples. So we very recently started a program which is called Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Leaders Program. And that is the program which focuses on gender, people with disability, and generational diversity, because we are a engineering and technical organization, and there's a lot of so it is engineers dominated and manufacturing and production dominated, and naturally you see more men there, and naturally you see less women and less people with disability because of nature of the work. Now what
Yeah.
happens is that you start ignoring the areas where you can actually leverage through this pool. And you have to look at the talent as a holistic piece, right? If you look at some numbers, so women, men and women are equal in terms of population in Pakistan. If you look at the graduates and students passing out numbers, you'll see the women, a number of women has been increasing over the past some years, especially in engineering. In business school it is, I think, still 50-50, but in
Hmm.
engineering it is increasing. And within engineering there are different crafts, electrical, mechanical, and you see less women in more men dominating crafts, but still number is increasing. So why would, as an organization, you would not tap that pool? Why will you discriminate and deprive yourself as an organization with a limited pool? Why not? But it will only happen when this systemic biases will remove and you will start looking at it. So what we did, I'll just give a couple of examples. So for overall understanding and awareness of diversity, we started this program, DEI Leaders Program, and we brought in our own leaders from all levels, from entire organization. We are a conglomerate and we have multiple companies within the corporation. So we brought about 50, 60 of them. We trained them as our ambassadors and diversity leaders, and we sent them back into the organization to run the program and start sensitization of the entire organization. And that has made a very, very positive impact, where biases, the unconscious bias was there, that we
Hmm.
protect women, we don't want to send them in the market, we don't want to send them in at the plant, they can't climb up the towers and all of that. But this was just a bias that has nothing to do with the competence of women to do it. But when they realize and they give women a chance, so they are now progressing and excelling and doing as good work as any other person. Similarly with people with disabilities, so now we have quite a good number where a lot of employees who have some disabilities are working in a very good positions and contributing. So that is one program which is giving us a lot of benefit. Then there is a flagship program called Graduate Trainee Engineers. Now we
Hmm.
opened that program to most of the organizations, institutions of Pakistan, and we invited all good students to apply. There wasn't threshold for GPA or a gender, and we said that we are coming to your institution to find good minds, good talent, and that's it. So, and that gave us such a wonderful result. I'll tell you, this year batch we hired about 75 engineers, and the topper in the entire assessment is a woman and comes through a lesser known engineering university and comes through a very humble background. This wasn't possible if we would have not talked about inclusion, if we would have not really done this program and sensitized our leaders to everybody. So, this has really worked for us. So, but you really have to do a very focused and
Hmm.
concentrated effort towards gender, towards people with disability, towards generations, Z's and Y's, and then sensitize the older generation. So these are the things which has worked for us as an organization, and there are more examples. So we started a program for women, break kebab, so they can. It's a returnship
Hmm.
program, and we've got a very good response to that program. So we have segmented diversity within our
Hmm.
organization, and then we are working in that segment with bringing in program, so all of the segments are looked after, and we're not just focused on one side of the diversity. Yeah.
So, what sort of filtration criteria did you use when you said that you were looking for talent? Uh, so, any specific assessments that you
Yes.
use to filter
Yeah.
the talent out?
Yes. So we have this cognitive ability test. So that's an online test, and everybody has to go through it. And that test was sent out to the students, and then they whoever gone through it and scored a certain number, they were called in, and then we went for assessment centers. Now those were the assessment centers which were more critical for us, because we were those assessment centers were case study based and based on
Hmm.
the values and leadership behaviors which are our DNA culture. So for
Yeah.
Engro, there are four competencies, and there are three values which are very important, and this is like our breathing DNA. So everybody has to follow them and uphold them and embrace them and live up to them. And to check the compatibility with those values and behaviors, we did assessment centers across Pakistan, and all of these students who were shortlisted. And then when they were shortlisted, then we had interviews in the end, just to face to face interviews to understand their aspirations, to understand what exactly they understand about Angro, what exactly they want to do, which Angro company they want to go. And
Hmm.
then we made our final call. And mashallah, it was like uh, 50-50 almost in terms of gender. But unfortunately, our universities are not really compliant with people with disabilities. So there we had a lot of challenge to find them and bring them to the campaign.
Yeah.
And now we are working on a complete campaign which is only focused with people with disabilities, because we couldn't find a single engineer or a single student in these universities. And now we are doing a complete campaign. We're getting that data. There's a lot of challenges, so nobody has any data on
Hmm.
students. No institute is there who's helping them. There are a couple of them, very few institutes which are working and helping people with disabilities. So we are trying to get into that and bring them on board also.
And I think that's a very important thing that you have just mentioned, because uh, the business community needs to play that role and make those linkages with academic institutions to actually achieve this diversity and inclusion agenda, because
Exactly.
corporates or businesses alone cannot do that. We need to liaison with universities, and as you mentioned, most of the universities are not compliant when it comes to taking care of diversity disability needs. So
Yes,
that's very true.
exactly. Exactly.
So, Arshia, can you just share some examples in your work journey where you experience that the certain groups, while they're there in the workplace, they feel marginalized and they don't feel included, and what is the long term impact when there is unspoken marginalization of certain groups within the workplace, although they are hired and they're working, but still they don't truly feel included.
Yes, that is where the um, you know so diversity is, hiring and bringing in people with different backgrounds and genders and all that. Then inclusion is that uh, you hear their voice, right? And
Mhm.
equity is where you address their special needs and make them feel acknowledged and important part of the organization. So anyone who's hired has to feel that their voice, their contribution, their very existence is equally important for the organization as anybody else, right? But you're very right, there is a behavior, there are unconscious biases which marginalize certain segment of employees, like in our society as well. So somehow, not somehow, actually, the way your societies are formed, that is a reflection of culture
Mhm.
within organization. If you do not address it, if you do not really address those norms which are in your society, that will become your organizational culture as well. So yes, there has been times where in my career, I've worked closely with such groups who were marginalized and mostly were women initially, because yes, we hire them, but then we give them seat on the table as well, but we do not hear their voices, we do not make them feel
Hmm.
heard, we do not make them feel contributed, we make them feel like they were part of our agenda, diversity agenda. They were part of some quota, they were part of some, somebody's objective, and that's it, nothing beyond it. So there's a research, I've recently gone through it, of an organization where giving same opportunities, same exposure, same training to men and women, men were still excelling. And the underlying, and then the further research showed that there is unconscious bias which prevails. When some very critical assignment comes in, so managers has a unconscious inclination towards men, that they would do it better. Let's not give it to a woman.
Hmm.
Some family reasons, maternity reasons, or whatever reasons they have in the back of their mind, they would not give it to a woman a very critical role or a critical project or a
And
critical
especially women
assignment.
who are going through different life stages, fine, when as far as there's single women who can like have that sort of precision when it comes to the working schedule, it still works. But the moment they get married or they have family commitments, I think that's when more of this uh, behavior or unconscious
Exactly.
biases will start creeping in. uh,
Exactly.
and I have personally heard quotes like बच्चों के साथ तो डिस्ट्रैक्टेड होती हैं, काम पे फोकस नहीं कर पाती. एंड आई हैव ऑल्सो heard someone actually say that कि अगर ऑफिस पे अगर डे केयर हो तो ध्यान वहीं लगा रहता है, तो इट्स बेटर कि ऑफिस में
Exactly.
डे केयर नहीं होनी चाहिए. So those sort of things. And unfortunately, unless and until we don't have senior level representation at the board level, at
Exactly.
executive level, it becomes very difficult for HR professionals who usually tend to be women to like advocate for this cause when when they're like sitting in a boardroom full of like men and pushing for the case.
Exactly. I've heard worse than what you have just mentioned. So मैंने जो जिस टाइम से यहाँ तक आई हूँ, मैंने इससे भी बुरे कमेंट्स सुने हैं. But you see, there have been few years I've been saying that, if you're not hiring a woman for maternity, there will be a time when maternity benefit will be similar for a man and a woman. So what would you
Mm.
do then? You would not hire men कि वो maternity leave लेंगे. And now recently, very recently, there is this bill passed for men also, that they can take 3 months off,
Yeah.
when there's a child in the house. But you see, a woman has to go through these cycles in her life, right? Marriage and maternity, and then elder care, and all of these things. And
Mm.
responsible organizations have to take care of these stages in her life and provide her with the support. And if you understand this, you will not lose, because uh, you know So I've been observing this, and there's a lot of research, my personal research, and I see that a lot of women leave when they get a child or they get
Yeah,
pregnant, from when their family starts. That is the point when they leave most.
yeah.
And that is where the concept of daycare comes in. That is the concept of flexible working comes in. And Engro
Hmm.
has done all of this. So we took a couple of years first in making these policies. So daycare, flexible working, maternity leave, paternity leave. Is maternity leave is 6 months. So it was three, and then we made it to six, and then daycare, and then travel assistance. So if your child is, if you're a very young toddler, you can, company will assist you in the travel and one attendant also. So we took some time to make these policies and then make them practical as well. Policy banana is easier, but
Hmm.
making sure that the policy is accepted and managers have accepted it and they are now happy to extend that was another battle, which took us a couple of more years. And now I feel that with constant hammering and communication and talking and training, the needle has moved a bit, because now the way we design our initiatives, we are very mindful that, women are there, people with disability are there, people with of different generations are there. So it has to offer and everybody a same value, which is not happening previously.
Hmm.
मगर आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं कि unless and until somebody, one of them, is in the decision making team, it would not really make much impact. Because अगर एक औरत उसको ही समझ सकती है ना, you see, men try to understand what a woman is going through, but they still have, at the back of their mind, is still, they're different from us.
Yeah.
They in all terms they're different, and they can be sympathetic, not empathetic, with women.
Hmm.
It's important that one of one of that segmented population has to be there. So in my team here in culture and talent and culture team, I have a girl who has a disability and she's wheelchair ridden. My God, she is exceptional and so competent. And now the whole people with disability piece, she's leading that. So she is more appropriate to lead that piece rather than anybody else, right? So
Hmm.
gender diversity, you should give it to a woman to lead it. Generational diversity, you should give to a younger, or whatever generation you want to make more inclusive. You should give the lead to that individual. So you actually capture all of the important aspects of uh, that segment.
So, Arshia, I think businesses may, it's very important, to make a business case for any
Absolutely.
initiative you're trying to implement.
Yes.
Unless, you don't show the economic costs and benefits of whatever you're trying to implement, it for some reason it never goes through.
Hmm.
So, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, how would you make a business case for diversity and inclusion, that any person who is totally ultra rational and like super logical also gets the point, emotions aside?
Yes, exactly. So I've learned in hard way, that when you are going to the decision makers, facts and figures are more important than the emotions. So emotion follow, but the first of all, the case has to be on facts and figures. So if you look at the economic conditions, and you see that the impact of great resignation going on right now,
Hmm.
the turnover going through the roof, why would, as an organization, you will deprive yourself from the talent who's out there, in terms of women, in terms of multi-generation, and in terms of people with disability? Why would you deprive yourself? So when you will open, and you will have all of them coming to your organization and working for you, that will definitely increase productivity and profitability of the organization, and also will bring in creativity, because when you stop looking from single perspective and you have multi perspective thinking, you generate ideas.
Hmm.
And in Engro we have lots of example in terms of women and other diversity who actually drive value in terms of numbers, and that could only done by that certain individual. Nobody else would have done it because of the experience and because of the knowledge he or she had. So
Hmm.
that is the business case for me. If I can hire from 100, why would I hire from 30? 30
That's
versus
true.
100, right? So ek se bhale do. Why not I'll go out and shop from more variety? Would you go to a shop which does not have a variety and have very few things, or would you go to a shop where you see a lot of more options? Of course you'll go
Hmm.
for the one where you have options. And then that is how generally I start my conversation.
Great. And I also think, and that's my personal observation, please correct me if I'm wrong, that retention rates for women are typically higher if they're provided the right working conditions as compared to men. I mean, when women have to switch, they weigh in a lot of factors, including uh, is a workplace near to the kids' school, is child support there, and they're not the kind that who would just leave if an offer comes and offers them a few thousand extra rupees. They would just not like quit. They would weigh in a lot of factors. So
Hmm.
personally I think that uh, in terms of investing in diverse groups like disabled and women and all of that, you actually get higher long-term return on your investment and
Exactly.
higher retention rates at the same time.
You made a brilliant, brilliant point here, because recently I had a conversation with one of the leaders where, again, I get this comment a lot that, women leave when when there's some family thing, they would leave. And so I said, men don't leave organizations. I asked him, I said, men don't leave organization. They leave for 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees.
Mm,
Is that okay for you? But a woman giving birth is a noble thing,
yeah.
which you should actually acknowledge and appreciate and inspire from her, because she's
Mm,
creating, and then she takes a break or she leaves for this kind of a reason, is not good enough for you, with the reason that somebody's leaving for 10,000, 15,000 rupees, right? So
mm,
we actually, वही बात है कि एक परसेप्शन चली आ रही है या एक अनकॉन्शियस बायस चली आ रही है, and we don't really see and compare and ask questions to ourselves. So you see, there is no war between men and women here. It
mm,
is giving equal opportunities and addressing special needs. So
yeah.
diversity is not a zero sum game where man has to lose for a woman to gain. Right? It
Yeah.
is not like that. You just addressing special needs. अगर मुझे एक 6 महीने का gap चाहिए, that's my special need. That does not make me less than anybody else.
That's
But
true.
merit and competence has to be there. I must deliver on my role, on my job, on my objectives like anybody
Mm,
else. And
yeah.
then if I have special needs, then those should be addressed. ये जो एक टेक्निकलिटी है ना, इसको समझाना पड़ता है ज़्यादातर. You have to explain it to everybody that you have to address the special needs. All these times I keep getting these comments, why you celebrate Women's Day, why you have daycare facility. Well, we have it for both, for everyone, but generally in organizations, generally it's for women also. Why do you give them conveyance? All right, I will not give them conveyance. The day Pakistan becomes very secure for women, the day you will let your sister or wife or mother go alone outside and commute, the day that will stop happening, I will stop giving conveyance or allowance or Kareem option to my women
Mm,
colleagues. See, so you have to you have to really explain them that you are already very privileged, and then who is not, we have to sort of take care of them. So
And that's
employees
why
are
returns to hire at Engro and organizations who invest in these initiatives. I mean,
yes,
10 years down the line, you go and you see the same people in similar or higher in fact positions, and okay, these are the people who are carrying the legacy of the
yeah,
company with them, and they bring with them the company organizational knowledge, as you would like call it, and then you see it reflected in the numbers. I mean,
yeah.
see the profitability and you see the growth.
Yes, that is a we use a term here, empirical data. So yes, we have that data which actually proves that the moment we have opened ourselves to all sorts of diversity, you can relate it with the numbers and you can prove it with the numbers. So for my slogan is that everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here, despite of the genders and religion and backgrounds and education. Everyone is welcome to Anglo. We recently hired a transgender also. That was a battle too. But as long as competence and merit prevails, then everybody starts accepting it. पहले तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा एक कॉन्सेप्ट ये था ना कि we are just hiring diversity but we're not asking them to perform. But
Mhm.
we are very clear in Engro, we are very clear that competence and merit is the priority. If you are
Mhm.
performing and if you are excelling and if you are delivering what is expected from you, then if you're a man or a woman or whoever you are,
Mhm.
we'll take care of your special needs. But you have to perform, you have to deliver. So ये बहुत क्लियर है.
So, Arshia, I am hearing I'm hearing stories from a lot of notable organizations, per se. Obviously, people talk, and they say, कि, at the end of the day, it's a man's world, and the workplace is designed just for certain type of people who can show up at a certain time and then work for great 9 to 10 hours at a stretch, and women, even when they're there, they don't feel that with childcare and all of that, they can actually do justice to their dual roles of taking care of their children and at the same time doing the work. So can you please share some actionable steps or things that organizations at any level across any industry can immediately take at very low cost initially to implement diversity and inclusion?
See, there are few things which will not cost you. First of all, your intent. First of all, real inclusion. We hire them, we don't give them a voice, we don't listen, we marginalize. Stop doing that. That will not cost you anything, right? To
True.
any organization. So if you so I just want to मेरे LinkedIn पे मेरी एक post थी, don't hire women, and that is one of my posts which is most reposted and which I've got most of the comments. And the whole post was about that if you can, that was particularly for women, that if you can't give them a career, then don't hire them. If you can't address to their special need, then don't hire them. So, and that goes, there's a long list of it. So then please don't go for this diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda if you really cannot take care of them and if you really cannot nurture them. So that will not cost anybody anything. Accepting them, welcoming them with open heart, first of all. Secondly, especially for women and generations, flexible working
Yeah,
is
must.
is is a must. You just start doing that. So and when you give somebody a responsibility, generally 90% of the time people do take it very seriously and they are responsible. Everybody's adult, there's so much awareness. Before COVID, you would remember kitna resistance aati thi flexible working, right? But then
Mm.
we all were forced to do it, and we all were forced to work from home. And then we realize that yes, it can happen. You give responsibility and people respond responsibly on it. So flexible working, I think, is something which anybody can follow. And once you start doing it, you give your women free space. ठीक है, बच्चे हैं, उनकी जिम्मेदारी है, जब तक अगेन जैसे सोसाइटी जैसे होती है वैसे ही आपको वर्क पे रिफ्लेक्शन आती है, वर्क प्लेस पे। जब तक औरतों के लिए जिम्मेदारियां हैं, या तो आप अपने घर में भी अपनी जो खवातीन है उन पे से जिम्मेदारियां उठा लें, बच्चों
Hmm.
की, घर की, ससुराल की, फैमिली की, पेरेंट्स की, या तो आप अपने घरों में ये ख़त्म कर दें और फिर आप ऑफिस में भी ख़त्म कर दें। देन यू से कि ओके ठीक है, अब फ्लेक्सिबल वर्किंग की ज़रूरत नहीं है। सो आई हैव 3 किड्स, एंड नो मैटर हाउ independent I am, I am responsible to them
True.
as equally as their father is.
Yeah.
But the expectations from mother is more than the father. So
Yeah.
as long as those expectations are there in the society, organizations have to accommodate. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि मुझे इसको फ्लेक्सिबल वर्किंग नहीं देनी या वर्क फ्रॉम होम नहीं देना बिकॉज उसने बच्चों को लुक आफ्टर करना। आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि मुझे नहीं करना, आपको ये करना पड़ेगा और करना चाहिए, राइट?
Hmm.
तो ये 2-3 चीज़ें हैं। और जहाँ तक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, आई थिंक कंपनीज शुड इन्वेस्ट इन daycare is a big attraction for women, and I have hired a lot of women who came to Engro just because we have flexible working and we have daycare for them. Travel assistance might be a little more expensive for some organization, but if you can afford it, why not? So ये 2-3 चीज़ें हैं जो इम्पोर्टेंट हैं। अगर आपको जेंडर डाइवर्सिटी रखनी है, अगर आपको ओके, सॉरी। सो ये 3-4 चीज़ें आपको ज़रूर करनी चाहिए। और सेंसिटाइजेशन कुछ भी नहीं कर सकती ना अगर आप एज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, सो सेंसिटाइजेशन ज़रूर करें।
Hmm.
रेडीनेस रेडीनेस ज़रूर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर लेकर आएँ, उन पोजीशंस के ऊपर उस सेगमेंट को ज़रूर रिप्रेजेंट कराएँ। हैव वुमेन इन योर लीडरशिप टीम, हैव पीपल विद डिसेबिलिटी इन योर क्रिटिकल रोल्स, हैव यंगर जनरेशन रिप्रेजेंटिंग इन योर critical teams and leadership roles. Then you will have a more inclusive organization. Otherwise, yes, you can be a diverse organization, but you will not be an inclusive organization. And if you are not an inclusive organization, you are not an engaged organization. तो
That
आपकी जो
is true.
प्रोडक्टिविटी है वो
Hmm.
फिर भी उसी एक सेगमेंट से आ रही है। जो मैं आपको कह रही थी ना कि डाइवर्सिटी से प्रोडक्टिविटी और प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ती है, वो इसलिए बढ़ती है जब आप सब मिलके काम करते हैं। अगर आपने हायर भी कर लिया, सब फॉर एग्जांपल आपने मुझे रख भी लिया लेकिन आप मुझसे काम नहीं ले रहे, तो आपकी प्रोडक्टिविटी फिर लिमिटेड है उसी एक सेगमेंट से।
And that is so true, and it truly aligns with the concept of psychological contract. I mean, the employee and the employer, they have this unspoken psychological contract in which there's a give and take relationship involved. So when the employee feels that the employer is giving back to them in terms of taking care of them, not only just by giving them a salary, but overall taking care of them. The employees do give back and engagement scores do
एब्सोल्युटली,
rise. uh,
एब्सोल्युटली।
it comes
ठीक
full
कह रही है।
circle at the end of the
बिकॉज़
day.
देयर इज़ अ पीस ऑफ माइंड ना, तो साइकोलॉजिकल सेफ्टी भी फिर यहीं से आती है ना। अगर मुझे इस वक़्त उठ के जाना पड़े, फॉर
Mhm.
एग्ज़ाम्पल if I get, और अक्सर होता है, get a call from my son's school, I know that I can get up and go. I don't
Yeah,
even go and tell my line. And in my team, everybody knows it. अगर उनको कोई कॉल आती है जो उनको अटेंड करनी है, they'll just get up and go. They don't have to inform me. This
hmm.
is the psychological safety, which then makes you feel part of the organization. You feel, that belongingness comes in, that
Hmm.
engagement comes in, and you think, okay, my organization trusts me so much, so I have to give it back.
Yeah,
तो अगर मैं अभी उठ के चली जाऊँगी और मुझे ऑफ़िस का से उठ के जाना है, मुझे घर का कुछ अटेंड करना है, तो मैं शायद रात को 12 बजे बैठ के भी ऑफ़िस का काम करूँगी कि ओके,
that is
दिस
true.
वाज़ माय डेडलाइन एंड आई हैव टू रिस्पॉन्ड। और ऐसा ही है, इसी तरह हो रहा है इस वक़्त। And
Hmm.
that is the beauty of trust. When you trust your teams, when you trust your people, you give it to them. They, मैं बहुत optimistic हूँ कि people take responsibility and they deliver and they respond back. Unless you manage them with the factor of fear, then it's just 9 to 5. 9 to 5 and then just switch off.
That's true. That's true. Uh, and I believe that, Engro has shaped a lot of my ideas and values in terms of how, working cultures need to be managed. So, yeah, thank you for, like, again, reinforcing that. And uh, so, Arshia, I think it has been a fantastic conversation.
Same here.
Again, as I said in the beginning, a lot has been said, but a lot yet needs to be done. And
Absolutely.
the reason, why I keep on bringing up this topic in my LinkedIn posts and, doing webinars is to actually create this ocean of possibility कि ये हो सकता है locally भी organizations कर रही हैं, तो it's not something
Hmm.
impossible, or neither it requires a lot of money all the time, it's
No,
actually
absolutely.
ये छोटी-छोटी चीज़ें हैं, एक कल्चरल हैबिट चेंज है, द वे वी
Hmm.
रिलेट टू अदर पीपल, सेंसिटाइजेशन है, आप अपनी ही टीम में ही, you ask them to train 10 other people, how is that, going to cost you, like, except for in terms of time.
And then you have accountability metrics there.
Yeah.
Like we have harassment committee, we have a speak out system. I mean, if
Hmm.
still people are not addressing or still not behaving the way they are supposed to, there are other platforms you can come and talk about it and raise your concerns. So both goes hand in hand. Accountability and the responsibility and initiatives. But एक चीज जो आती है वो ये है कि you have to be fair with your work.
Yeah.
Because when you are in a minority and one or two wrongdoings impacts the whole segment,
Hmm.
right? So be fair, honest with your work, and then leave rest. Then if you have good leaders, they'll take care of you.
Fantastic. So, thank you so much, Arshia, for joining us today. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to post it in the comments, and hopefully, we'll find a way to get back to you. Thank you for your time.